Hey guys, welcome to the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. This is the official podcast of the Dynasty Empire. Now we're into 2020. We're going to start doing something a little bit different. I'm going to try and do as many of these as I can, but I want to do like monthly spotlights on studios, where we have a variety of staff from that studio come on the podcast. It's an opportunity to have other roles other than, because I've had a lot of environment artists and material artists on. By doing these spotlights, hopefully we get a bit more of an insight into the other roles within a game studio and what puts a game studio together. And a bit more focus as well to the podcast. It's not going to be every month, it's as and when we can do it. But yeah, this week on episode 36, we're starting with a very good friend, Mellor Meecham. We're at Remedy, guys who just did Control and absolutely killed it, and you're a Cinimatic Designer.
Yeah, I mean, well, killed it is an exaggeration, I would say, but doing pretty well. Feeling good.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna try and like bluff it, pretend like I said it was gonna do good. Like I weren't sure what to make of it. Like before it came out, I was like, I completely overlooked it, and then it came out and proved me wrong. It turned out to be, for me, one of the nicer looking games of the year. As an artist, I'm a big fan of brutalism, so I've got to say first off, congrats on how that went. But how have you been? Like, you happy? You've been enjoying your time in Finland?
Yeah, I absolutely love it here. I don't have any regrets. As I'm sure you remember that when I first got the interview and the offer, I said no because I was extremely scared of moving. And then I eventually, came around. So, and ever since then, I've never looked back. So,
that's actually quite interesting. Do you want to sort of go through that a little bit? Because I think that's something not a lot of people, when they talk to game professionals, they sort of it's always seems so straightforward for people, and you don't really get to see the behind the scenes of people's emotions. So, like, what was going through your head, like when you were, so you went, you know what, no. It was terrifying. Like, what was going through your head? What terrified you? What led you to make that initial decision?
Yeah, well, I guess what I was most worried about was losing progress in a way. I had all my friends, I had my family, and I was potentially moving into a completely new job role. I'd never been a cinematic designer before, and I didn't really know if I wanted to progress in what I was currently doing, which was more just art and design inspired. And then I went through the interview naively assuming everything would be a no. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things. Always do it even if you assume it's going to be negative in the end. Yeah. And then I was so blown away by first of all, it was such a quick response. And then I was so blown away by the response that I had a little bit of a panic. And yeah, it was, I think what really brought me round was the fact that someone told me that because I was saying it was risky, someone said that staying still is just as much of a risk, or just staying, not doing anything.
Yeah.
So
both sides. Yeah, that's really interesting. What about so I suppose that's something actually, I bet there's a lot of people who've come to that crossroads where they feel like they've been doing something for a couple of years. They're like, right, I've made progress in this particular domain, and there's an opportunity to do something they really want to do, but they're kind of like, well, okay, I've got this progress here I've made, and I don't want to lose that to go do this. Now, in hindsight, looking back, would you say you've actually lost any progress? I mean, I'd like to assume that any of the time you spent at Inspired you has contributed to the way you perceive art, you interact with people. Like, there's a lot of skills developed anyway, so it's not like it's lost time, is it?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I think I was, yeah, there were so many pros and cons, and at the time the cons seem so realistic.
Yeah.
But now they're ridiculous. Like, of course I've not lost anything. I still have friends and I can still go back. and and even the skills I learned in my old job, whilst now they are completely different from what I'm learning now, they're still valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not, you're 100% right. I've not thrown anything away, and there's not really any reason to worry about that kind of stuff.
Was there any of the sort of the cons, just on a con list? So you said most of them were completely ridiculous. Is there any which were you were like, which have turned out okay? Yeah, they are cons, but I don't care. Like, has there been anything that you're like, I was worried about this, and it kind of is a con, but it doesn't really bother you? Like, is there anything like that on that list?
I guess personally, I did leave someone special behind.
Mm-hmm.
And now time has moved on. It's not as important anymore.
Yeah.
So there's that. But career-wise, there have been skills. Say, for example, I'm not nearly as creative as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of... It's... well, it's not something that I feel I've left behind for good, so it's not really a big enough deal. At the moment, I'm filling those gaps with other stuff, so it doesn't feel, as long as I'm proactive about the stuff I'm currently doing, doesn't feel as big a blow as I originally thought.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, because compared to, I don't do as much art in design, for example. So
just out of curiosity, so this is I'm recently going to be starting in February. I'm going to be starting working with ArtStation, and that's going to be like a managerial role.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm super stoked.
One thing that's in my mind, and I'm speaking to Randall Mackey, he's the sort of 2D side of what my role is. He made a very good point to me. He was like, when he was doing art and then going home and then doing more freelance art, it was a bit of a gruel. It was pretty tough on him. He said, but now he's scratching one itch doing all this managerial stuff. But by the time he gets home, he's got all his creative juices still there. He's like then completely fresh to do art. And that's one thing I'm kind of looking forward to. I'm like having that balance of, right, I'm no longer going to be doing art. It's going to be like doing one thing completely separate. Then when I get home, and I'm just wondering, do you get that sort of sense as well? Like when you get home, if you want to do something creative, you feel like you still have that energy to do it, and you're not creatively spent.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually, this is one of the reasons I was put off during university to become, say, for example, a concept artist or something like that, because, well, obviously for people who absolutely love it, this isn't the case, but I always worried that it would almost suck the joy out of it if I had to work day in, day out doing that kind of thing. So, and I do get creatively exhausted quite. I think I get creatively exhausted faster.
Yeah.
So, than say technically exhausted.
You still there? Oh, sorry.
Have I gone?
No. My PC's a potato. It hung for a second. No, you just mentioned about the creative exhaustion thing. It's interesting. I can't remember who I was talking to now about it. It was someone in Discord. We were talking about like basically being aware of what type of person you are. Like, so for me, for example, I'm the type of person that can work, 16 hours in a day and be fine. However, them 16 hours aren't necessarily 16 hours of work. It's like there's an hour and a half of me just looking around a grey model. There's like an hour of me on social media. There's an hour of me talking to people. It's not 16 hours of work. And I think you're at the other end of the spectrum. I think you're like, when you sit down to work, that's like, and it's say for it's 5 hours. It's 5 hours of quality work. You don't deviate very much, I find.
Well, I probably deviate, but this is quite interesting because everyone's been talking about how working 7.5 to 8 hours a day is ridiculous because no one can really keep that concentration up.
Mm-hmm.
And actually in Finland they've been, well, I'm not sure how recent it is, but because their neighbouring country Sweden has taken on 6 hours of work as the standard in some areas. People can't keep up the kind of concentration and they do get exhausted. And I think especially in mental work situations as well as physical, but mental exhaustion is just as high as physical exhaustion. So I think
it's way higher. I think your mental exhaustion can kill you. Like I know when I was playing, like when I was a bricklayer, I was like doing bricklaying and playing rugby, and I was coming home and doing art, and I was still fresh as a daisy. And I know that some days after working at Inspired, I'd finish the day and I was just completely spent, and I've been sat at a desk for 7 hours, not lugging bricks up a ladder.
Not moving around.
It's worse than mental exhaustion thing.
Oh, well, you obviously have. I don't think I've ever lifted a physical day of labour in my life, so I don't really have a good opinion.
You've been to the gym, you know what it's like when you get back from the gym, like yeah.
I do. I have, yeah. I've actually taken up boxing recently. Well,
boxing,
kind of like to keep me in shape.
Nice. Boxing. I'm scared of striking sports. I do jiu-jitsu, but that's just because it's wrestling. Yeah, I don't like striking. Anything striking, I just get like funny. I don't know. I'm funny about it. I'm just like, I'll stick to jiu-jitsu. It's just submissions, and I avoid all the striking. I find it like. Do you find like? I find when I'm actually in my routine of like going to the gym and all that sort of stuff, I actually have more energy at work, and like in my own time, I just feel like I'm more upbeat and uplifted when I'm in a regular routine of exercise. Is that the same for you?
I think it varies from week to week, but yeah, I mean, you can't say a bad word against exercise. It's always gonna, even if you're in a slump, even a little bit of exercise can make you feel better. So, yeah, definitely. I always want to bail straight before it, but when I do it, I'm grateful. So, yeah, it's good.
So,
jiu-jitsu, wow.
Oh yeah, it's I don't do it very much. Like it's every other week or something like that. And when I do, I get my ass handed to me. Like being a rugby player, I go into the room like thinking I'm gonna be able to manhandle some people, and like some 5'5" small guy just launches me around and makes me cry. So yeah, that's always fun.
Good. So letting your emotions out as well. It's good training.
That's what I'm totally to do more. But yeah, so Cinimatic Designer. Can you just explain to me what that day job is? Because I know that I didn't understand it until you explained it to me. So can you just sort of summarise it a bit for us before we start this?
Well, it depends. Day to day, it depends what stage of production we're in.
Yep.
So, but usually throughout a project, we will, ideally, we would get handed the screenplay, which shouldn't have changes, technically, but everything has changes. So, and then we would build. The screenplay would have gameplay and cinematics and CIAs and everything in it. We would focus on the scenes for the cinematics, build kind of documentation for it, and then block out and storyboard, block out the scenes using, for example, some people use Shot Designer, or some people, I use After Effects.
You still use After Effects?
Just build. I use After Effects just to kind of animate blocking.
Yeah.
Where we we blueprint the environment out and show where all the characters are going to be whilst the scene plays out. And shot designer's good because it gives camera positions, and we can move those around too.
Okay.
Then after the blocking and we can. Sorry?
I want to just turn the camera off because I think that's making it hang.
Yeah, I can turn mine off too. We can. Sorry.
It's alright.
After blocking, we would then start to implement stuff bit by bit into the engine. So I actually do a little bit of scripting, even though I'm not super good at it, but it's quite simple code. We just use quite like a form of C++. And we start using the already built game, which should have a simple game flow and a simple environment laid out for us. And we just implement it and have to communicate with the other teams to give us assets. And we implement it into the engine, and then we also use so we use this editing software that's built into the Northlight engine.
Yeah.
And that it's basically like any other video editing software that you might use. And it independently specifies certain assets that we have implemented into the game. So, for example, we would target a camera, and we would we would specify a certain amount of frames that we wanted this camera to run for. Same with animation and lighting and visual effects, and visual effects and lighting would be added near the end of the project.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's So you're like, just to sort of put it into layman terms, you're like positioning the cameras. So you're setting up how the cameras are going to move, how how you're going to frame shots. And scripting it into the engine as well. Yeah,
it's quite hard to describe just a typical day, because after a certain project goes on, the days completely change. Like I could be editing for an entire day, and then another day just be doing code. It's quite varied.
So do you like that though? Do you like the fact that you're like every day is you're trying your hand? Well, not necessarily trying your hand at different things, but your job isn't every day doing the exact same thing. It's you are doing various different things, and you're stretching different skill sets. Because I imagine the code stuff's very, technical and intensive, and you have to think like problem solving, that sort of stuff. But then like the design and the camera shots and stuff, you got a bit more creative liberty, and you got to think a little bit more. Like, do you like that?
Yeah, I do. I really like it. I think it's similar to what we were kind of talking about, the creative exhaustion, in a way. If I just did one thing, I think I would tire from it way faster. So whilst I'm not a huge fan of code, I do enjoy doing it because it's not too taxing, and it gives me a break from, like other creative exhaustion that I was going on about.
I think it's quite cool. I guess you get to see your work actually come into the engine as well. It's not just you messing around in After Effects at that point. Like, you're actually seeing your camera's work in engine with game assets. Yeah,
and it is really good watching them, because obviously you start out with complete dog shit, and there's so many. You're good. You build this stuff, and everything's white boxed, and everything's glitchy, and nothing is really. Nothing is polished at all, and then you get to the end of the project and slowly you see it all come together, and it's slow, but it's cool.
Yeah, no,
and
that is.
and after the lighting and VFX guys do their pass, and I come back and look at it, it's nice. It's good, and yeah. Sorry.
I mean, you also do a bit of. I remember when you were not long started, you're saying keep an eye out for if you see a character hug another character, I'm the character being hugged, because you did a bit of mocap. I remember you telling me. So what's that like? Like, yeah. Was that a surprise
that
to
got
you?
Cut. That got cut.
No. So,
yeah, but
what was that like then? So like, how did that come about?
Oh well, actually, it's pretty interesting watching the mocap actors kind of suit up and do their stuff in the mocap studio, and then coming back and seeing the movement on one of like our animator screens, and seeing just how much detail and how you really can tell the difference between the actors just by the way they walk, because they all walk, they all have their different styles, and it's quite cool to see the motion.
Yeah,
it's quite tactile and it's quite interesting. But I actually did, because I don't. By the end of the project, the movements are so cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really tell who's who, I guess, in the end.
So what sort of things? It's interesting you talk about this, because I've heard someone else tell me about this. The fact that like when you get the raw data, you see all of the mannerisms. You know, like just even in the way someone stands, like someone who slightly drops one hip to the side, someone who slouches one shoulder, or like the way they move and the way their joints behave and stuff. Like, does them sort of stuff just get cut out so the stuff flows better and it's more seamless? Because it's almost a shame to like get rid of all that sort of information. There's so much personality there, like when you have all that stuff. Like, how? Okay, how is the I don't really know how to phrase this question. Like, what's the sort of thought process when you get that raw data for the animators? Like, how do you decide what to take out? Have I got out?
Almost car.
Sorry. I'm sorry. My PC's been really bad tonight. I have no idea why.
It's okay. So, for example, you might not want too much movement because it's quite over exaggerated and not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to remove, I think kind of you can pick and choose what to remove, because some subtle stuff for us, I know, does stick. Like if someone was to leave a room and look back, for example, that might be kept in. It's very situational.
Okay. What about, like, how much... Again, I'm trying to think the best way to phrase this. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm like, I've got all these... Wait, I don't really know how to phrase these questions. Like, film. Now, I don't necessarily... I know film in like, influences what you as a cinematic designer do. Now, remove Remedy for a second. And Control. Let's just talk a bit about, like, how you see film, like, influencing games. You know, because I know it's easy to draw a lot of comparisons between like what you see in film, and I know we spoke yesterday, and I was talking about how like I see a lot of Chris Nolan-esque quirks in Control. What are some of like things like? Is there anything you've seen in film where you're like, I'd love to see that come into a game? And one example I've seen is a really good storytelling moment in The Dark Knight, with the camera basically when Commissioner Gordon, Harvey and Batman are like on the rooftop talking, and like the Jokers have screwed them all over, and the cameras are spinning around them, and like
Yeah.
as they're arguing, it's like this whirlwind of chaos. And I was like, I just really love that camera technique, and I was like, I'd love to see that make a transition to the games. Has there been anything like that? You're like, you know, you see a film, and you're just like, I want to do that in a game. That would be amazing.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff. For me, it's usually atmosphere.
Okay.
And actually, a lot of games without cutscenes at all are obviously, they're already really cinematic, just with just certain like moody backgrounds and the way things are like the game flow for even fixed camera sections. I can't really think of there are so many examples, like but even old games, they're still really influenced, well, already from film, because it was the media before it. It was kind of like, there were so many games I can remember as a kid where I wished I could kind of there were so many films that I had watched as a kid that I wish I could have played.
What, like?
Well, I like seeing a bit more comedy in games and more banter. And I'm sure that's probably more down to narrative, but having a really comedic game, like, I don't know, something quite slapsticky, like Monty Python or something, that would be quite cool.
Oh, that'd be
seeing
interesting.
that in a game. But in terms of cinematics, you know, like even super old games, like, did you ever play Myst?
Is that the one? Is that like this sort of Shadow Colossus type game? Is it something along them sort of lines? Or have I got the wrong game in mind?
It's a point and click adventure.
No, I haven't played that one. Sorry, carry on.
And it uses kind of I'm probably remembering it so much better and putting it on a pedestal. But it uses real footage in the game, like real actors.
Right. Okay.
And it was super kind of intriguing to me. It wasn't necessarily the most successful game ever, but that kind of experimental, bringing in that kind of stuff has always been quite interesting to me. And yeah, that's kind of what I was mentioning yesterday about how I was surprised Remedy kind of try and involve real film footage in their games, even just as side Easter eggs or something like that. I think it's quite creative and not limiting themselves in only one media. So
yeah, I think it's as long as you can't break the like. So it's interesting you say that, because I think about like the times I think about that particular instance is like, I think it was RTSs. It might have been like StarCraft or like Command and Conquer or something. And the commanders would be on this little screen, but they're like real actors. And I'd always think, like, it's weird that it never broke my immersion. I never sort of went, well, why am I playing this really pixelated, crappy game, and I'm getting like a real person? Because all I remember was you got real emotion. Like, that's the thing you got. It's like it was free, cheap character building and emotion. Because obviously with like I said, with real person, there's so much character and personality.
I think I think it's quite hard to do well, but which is why we don't see it often anymore. And it's probably quite expensive in the end, maybe, to do. But when it's done sparingly and quite tastefully, I think it's really good. But
I think the reason you probably don't. This is me going off on like a limb, but I think the reason you probably don't see it so much is you got stuff like Death Stranding, for example, where they're just going to mocap Norman Reedus and do like the highest quality model they possibly can. I do find AAA or games in general, there's certain things they try to do where you're like, they're sort of reaching for the sake of reaching. You know, like when they say, it's going to be like a fully procedural open world RPG with like, and there's all these great characters and stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's really impressive. But then games like Control and God of War come along, and it's like far more linear stories than some of these other open world games. And it's kind of like you don't need to do this crazy, always hot buzzwords to make the game successful. And I actually found it quite refreshing, with the Casper Darling's videos. Like I said, there's a whole lot of emotion you get with a character that I still haven't seen games capture. I think games with 3D models, they just haven't managed to capture that human element where you really connect with a person. Whereas all the video footage of Dr. Casper, there's a human there, and you connect with it, and you see, you go through the emotional journey he went on. I just don't think 3D models, I don't think characters in 3D models have quite reached that stage yet. But it's why I wish they would do more of this sort of Casper Darling stuff, like the real world footage. Because it's a lot more, it's refreshing. That's the only word I can think of, is refreshing. Oh wait, have you cut out again? You back? Hello? I'm sorry, I know that... Are you back? Anna. There we go, you're back. I'm going to apologise now when anyone listen. This is like a really choppy podcast. Yeah, so I don't know how much of that you missed. But I say, it's really refreshing.
I hope it's not my internet.
Sorry. No, it's mine. No, it's definitely mine. It's just I've got... When I say it's a potato machine, it hasn't been updated in like 6 years, 7 years. And even when I got it, it was pretty old.
I mean... They could have heard everything I was saying, so no problem.
It could be.
Yeah, I've lost my train of thought again.
With the real world footage, it's really refreshing. It's really nice to see. And basically, I'm saying I don't think we see it because games try to overreach and do everything with 3D graphics and scans and like I said with Death Stranding with Norman Reedus. I just don't think they're quite at the stage yet where you get the same of what you got with the Dr. Casper Darlings. Like the amount of emotion and character you got with that, I don't think any game has come close to yet.
I wonder if that's kind of partly to do with how people how people behave towards video games versus film. Maybe people kind of take film narrative a lot more seriously because it's about instilling certain emotion, whereas games are about the play. You're not really there for another character's emotion, you're there for your emotion, your play and enjoyment. So I wonder if it's partly to do with that.
And I've seen games try and be a film, like Heavy Rain and Detroit and
Oh yeah, I actually really like Detroit. I had a lot of fun. I played it in one day. It was great.
It was. I didn't like the narrative. The thing is, this is how I feel about it. If you're gonna be this and be so into the film, like being a film, I expect a little bit of subtlety to the story. All the narratives felt very heavy-handed.
It was very dramatic, but I think I was at a time that just fell for it every time. But it didn't make me cry.
It did?
It didn't.
Oh, okay.
And I think if it had been real people, it probably would have made me cry.
You know what did get a game which did achieve the sort of film thing for me? I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. So when you watch like slasher horrors, you don't take them seriously. You're there for some popcorn fun. Probably have a couple of beers when you're watching it because this isn't a serious movie. You're just there for a laugh. Until Dawn captured exactly how I felt when I watched them types of movies. I was just there for a laugh. I didn't like any of the characters. I wanted to get them all killed if I could. I didn't take it seriously, but it's the exact one-to-one emotion that I had when I watched them type of movies.
Yeah, I have yet to play Until Dawn, but I have heard this same thing from other people, that it just got so many things right.
Yeah, I think it's captured everything.
Yeah. That is, oh man, there are so many games on my list that I have to play, and the more adult I'm becoming, the longer that list seems to grow.
I'm afraid I will call bullshit there. We know you're not getting more adult, Anna. We know. What do you think of, what about, like, as a cinematic designer, what do you think of... So did you play Alien Isolation?
No.
Damn it. Okay.
I know about it though. I know it's also pretty great.
So that one I quite liked. There's one thing I liked about it.
Yeah.
Take all the cinematics out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
The
can do. Easy peasy.
the alien, have you seen how the alien gets introduced? Like when you first meet it? Okay. I suppose spoilers. You go like 30 minutes without even seeing the alien before you're only dealing with humans and androids. And then there's no cutscene, there's nothing, just you hear a slithering and you look up and like there's a vent with a tail hanging out of it. And then it literally just falls out of the vent, lands on the floor like a dollop of poo. And like, and then it's just playing, you're in, it's the game. There was no cutscene, there was no ceremony. It was just, you're in. And I don't know why, I remember that really striking me. And I was like, you know, like normally when you introduce the villain in games, it's like this big cutscene and cinematic. And I was like, for me, that was almost a storytelling device in itself. That it's just like, this thing just happened. There's no ceremony, there's no warning. It just happened to you mid gameplay. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm totally on the whole cinematics. They're a really delicate subject for games because some people like them and some people absolutely hate them. And I completely understand the whole hating on them thing because
here we go, we've had another. Just so you know, whatever you're thinking, pause it, put a pin in it, because it's my PC's hung up again. If my computer's capturing this, I'm really sorry. I don't know why my PC is just hanging really hard right now. I've closed all my settings and everything, so hopefully Anna's not ranting right now. Anna, you back? Is she back?
What is it?
Okay, you're back. Good,
here.
Good. Did you hear me saying pause during that hang?
I heard you talk about the cinematics.
Okay. So let's go. You're saying it's a sensitive subject.
The lack of cinematics in Alien Isolation.
Right. So you were about to start talking about how it's a sensitive subject in gaming, and then it hung up my PC. I don't know if it captured me saying I'm sorry, but carry on. So it's a sensitive subject. Continue.
Because a lot of people hate the idea of doing what a game wants them to do, which is why cinematics are... Are you still there?
Yeah, I said here.
Okay. Which is why cinematics tend to be kind of like you love or you hate them kind of thing. And a lot of people feel like they don't want to watch a film whilst they play a game and all. I completely understand that. And then I heard the other side of the story after, even before I started being a cinematic designer, that some people do. They really value the cinematics because it's what keeps them going in a game as well. So I don't know. I'm quite balanced on both the arguments. I think they've got good points. And it's really because I used to be quite negative about cutscenes in video games. Yeah, I used to be way more pro with being able to play a game independently and being able to discover things on my own, even if that wasn't the game's intention.
Yeah.
But now I've completely done a 180. Obviously, maybe I'm biased, but it's yeah, it's not. It might just. I think it's not just my job. I think it's the time I have on games as well. When you have such an open game now, there's so much stuff. It's so hard to follow sometimes for me. That cinematics and atmosphere and cutscenes, they help me grasp hold of something and allow me to plow forward and see an end and see a benefit to why I'm playing it now. So
yeah, they sort of give you sort of the framework. So like you can still do your exploring and discovering yourself, but it gives you the framework to like sort of keep you on the right path. I mean, we're also kind of, this sounds horrible to be saying, game fans are the worst fans in the world.
Yeah. They're a close second to Star Wars fans, but
yes, yeah. Oh, that's such a words. No, because think about it like this. I'm like, I see Metal Gear Solid fans. So I see people play Metal Gear Solid and be like, oh god, really long cutscenes. I'm like, it's a Hideo Kojima game. You know what you get into when you buy this game. It'll be just like me buying Apex and being like, oh, where's all the cutscenes, man? I want story. I want like lore, and I'm like. I think a lot of people they want games to be their thing and what they want it to be, rather than games being what they are. And I'm guilty of this as well. Like, I was like, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare game, I absolutely loved. And I was just like, give me more campaign. The campaign was amazing. Give me more. And I'm like, okay, I get what it was. It was a small, concise story I wanted to tell, and then focus on the multiplayer. Fair enough. And it's like, that was me trying to like project what I wanted the game to be. And I think that's where I think a lot of what that argument comes from. I just see people play the wrong games and then hate on the game for not being what they wanted it to be. Like Metal Gear Solid is my best example for that. You know, like 20 minutes.
Do you know what people are complaining? People are complaining about Death Stranding, about how there are cinematics at the beginning and there are cinematics at the end, but there's nothing in between. So you have a whole lot of gameplay with nothing to help you feel like you're progressing. So what do Kojima fans really want? I don't know.
Yeah, Death Stranding's a funny one as well. Like, so I haven't played it.
Have you played it?
No, I didn't play it because I knew what it was. I knew it was like a UPS type game. I knew I wouldn't enjoy it. I've watched it on stream for a little bit and I was like, this isn't even exciting me. So I'm not gonna buy it. And fine. I mean, I still look at it visually. It's great to look at visually. It's an incredible looking game. But I was just like, it's not for me. It's not my game. I at the time I got Witcher 3 instead because I watched the series, loved it, and decided to get a game.
Classic.
Yeah, I saw Henry Cavill in a tight leather pants. I was just like, yeah, I need to get this game.
Yeah, I binged Witcher.
What do you think?
And then
mixed. Shit. Okay, we've cut out again. Like I said, I think I can see my OBS is still recording, so I am really sorry about this, and I'll try and get it fixed for the next podcast. We'll probably have Anna back in like another 5 seconds. She's about to tell me why she hated The Witcher. Okay, I think we got her back. Anna, we're back. 3, 2, 1. Hello? Anna? Anna? Oh, this is a bad one. Okay, yeah, you're back. Okay, I'm so sorry. I really am sorry.
Don't leave me.
Mixed about The Witcher. Why?
Yes. Well, why am I mixed about The Witcher? It was quite well, I'm trying to remember now. Sorry. I've been consuming so much stuff lately. I just binged all of Newsroom, and now I'm just Newsroom. It's quite an old drama that's on HBO now.
Okay.
And I've just started watching just started watching The Boys as well. So,
Oh, no, that's good.
so,
That's very
so
good.
many things that I've been consuming. Yes, sorry, The Witcher. There were things that I liked about The Witcher, and things that I didn't like about The Witcher. I'm trying to remember. They were just a bit. It felt a bit. Like in some places it felt a bit like it wasn't maybe really going anywhere. I'm not.
I can see why you say that.
But when I finished watching it, I missed it when it was gone, and I wanted to watch more of it. So it was. Yeah, I do want to see more. I thought it was quite interesting how so the characters Yennefer, Ciri and Geralt, they were all on different timelines. I thought that was quite interesting.
I really love that.
I just remembered. Yeah, I was hoping that they were going to join the timelines up a bit more emotionally and kind of a bit more, I don't know, epically.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it was a bit like, okay, they're doing their battle, done. And it's like, oh, okay, then I'm done. It's like, there was no payoff, I suppose.
Yeah, because having 3 different timelines and not mentioning their different timelines to the audience, kind of having them meet all together in an epic way felt maybe more like a payoff or like a revolution in a way. I don't know, but this is just me going, I wish something was this instead of.
Well, that's part. Like I said, while we're gamers, we're allowed to be shitty fans too.
Yeah. But I did like it, and I want to see more of it. So, yeah, it's good. And those tight pants. Yep.
Yeah, Geralt. Like when I heard Henry Cavill was playing Geralt, I was like, I don't know about that. Like, just thinking of Superman. And I watched the first episode. I was just like, holy shit, this is my Geralt. This dude's boss.
Yeah,
I really liked him.
I know a lot of people who were quite. Well, even me. Yeah, I didn't really see Superman as Geralt either, and then he turned out like a really enjoyable part. So good for him. Good work.
What a Geralt! You wore them pants well.
Yeah.
What was
the actor's name?
Henry Cavill.
That's the one, Henry. Good work, Henry.
So, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up in a minute, but what I do want to do is I want to get you back on. One, when the PCs are being a piece of shit, but also I just want to talk. I think it'd be interesting to talk more with you about films and TV, because I know that's what, when we worked together, we spoke a lot about TV and film quite a lot, and I think it'd be interesting to now you know, full-time cinematic designer, you probably have a few like inside ideas of how these things are done, and be quite an interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I'd quite like to talk about it more and actually kind of get my own head around it as well, because I keep on overlapping my thoughts with other thoughts and continuing sentences that are completely different, and so it would be good to have a proper conversation about it. And
because I mean, that's what I love about this podcast, is like, it's quite handy because just having conversations with people, you do straighten out your own ideas, and I think we'll have to after this have a conversation, because I'd love to get. I think it'd be a good idea to get you back on and I don't know, talk regularly about films and TV, because we've also got very different tastes as well. From what I remember, like working together, we have very opposite tastes in terms of film and TV. So it'd be interesting seeing our opinions on things like The Witcher when we actually do agree on something.
Yeah, I'll try think of some examples. I didn't really. I should have kind of backed up some of my thoughts with
It's alright, it's fine.
References, but it was good, and it was nice catching up with you.
It was very nice. But so everyone who's listening, I apologise for any of the hang-ups. Hopefully OBS was capturing what I was saying when I was profusely apologising every time it happened, and I'll get this fixed before next week. This January is going to be the Remedy Spotlight month. I'll see you guys next week, but Anna, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed talking.
Thanks very much for having me. I had a really nice time chatting. It was
Goodbye, people.